Welcome everybody, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you for joining me. If you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, I'm attempting to reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers, and if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. All right, we're going to take a look today at a brand new Mr. Big release. It's a best of collection that just came out in Japan on March 25th of 2020, and it spans the years from 2010 until 2017. So Mr. Big is a supergroup of sorts, and Eric Martin, who's the vocalist, had a brief solo career in '85 and '86, releasing these two albums here. And guitarist Paul Gilbert comes from a group called Racer X. And then you've got Billy Sheehan, who at the time was probably the most famous of the members. He had been in a group called Talus, and then where his fame came from was being in the backing band for David Lee Roth on his two most popular albums. And then Pat Torpey on drums, coming from Impellitteri, but also having been the touring drummer for Robert Plant. So they formed in '88, and their music is marked by very strong vocals, harmonies, and each one is very proficient at their own instrument. Their debut album, self-titled, came out in 1989. Unfortunately, this album didn't really make much of a mark for them. It wasn't until 1991 and the album Lean Into It that they really broke big. This one here had the single To Be With You, and in 1992, that song went all the way to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. The follow-up single to it, Just Take My Heart, also went to #16 on the Billboard Hot 100, and ultimately the album was certified platinum. And then in 1993, they released their follow-up album called Bump Ahead. And this album here featured the song Wild World, which is the Cat Stevens cover. And when Mr. Big released it, that song went to #27 on the Billboard Hot 100. So as you can see, they were already having a number of top 40 and #1 hits. And you got to remember the time frame too. This was during grunge and its heyday. And so for a hair band like Mr. Big to be able to do this was sort of an unheard thing. There was only one other band that was really doing this at the time, and that was Firehouse. So following the 1993 Bump Ahead album, they recorded Hey Man, which was the last album to feature original guitarist Paul Gilbert. And then they brought in former Poison guitarist Richie Kotzen, who had recorded this album here, the Native Tongue album from 1993. He had also been a solo artist in his own right, so they brought him in, and another virtuoso on his instrument, and they recorded 2 more albums with him. The album Get Over It and Actual Size, before deciding to call it a day. And that was in 2002. But then by 2009, the original lineup reformed and did a tour. And in 2010, they released the album What If, followed by 2014's The Stories We Could Tell, and then in 2017, Defying Gravity. Unfortunately, Pat Torpey, then 64, died of Parkinson's disease, and at this point, the band decided that that was probably enough, and has said that they do not intend to do anything further, at least at the time. But there's now been some rumors going around that they may record one more album and do a farewell tour. Which brings us to present with this album here, Songs, 2010 to 2017. And as I was describing with the band and the #1 hit and the other top 40 singles and things like that, the band really is big in Japan. That's not just the old adage that you sometimes hear. They've got multiple gold and platinum awards over there. The tours repeatedly sell out, and they play some of the largest venues of the country. All 5 of the live releases you see behind me are Japanese only. These are 2 other best of collections that are Japanese only. So as you can see, this collection here being released is no one-off thing. This is something they really do sell a lot of records in Japan. This album here has, as I said, collects tracks from its last 3 albums, what I call the reunion era albums, these here. And so it focuses on that later part of their career. They've got 6 tracks from the What If album that came out in 2010, 5 tracks from The Stories We Could Tell that came out in 2014, and 6 tracks from Defying Gravity, which came out in 2017. And then there's one song that's unreleased on an album, but it was a benefit single for Japan following the 2011 earthquake. And so there is one song on there that's at least new for me and probably new for a lot of people outside of the Japan country itself. The songs are chronological order on here by album, but the songs themselves from each album are on a different track listing than they are on that original album, which is nice. And the song selection, in my opinion, is done really well. It's only got 2 ballads and the rest of them are all rockers on here. It has all the singles from each of those albums, but it does have a lot of deep cuts on it, and I think it provides a good flow to the album. So you do get the peaks where you hear those hits, and you get the nice valleys where you're listening to these deep cuts, which are a little fresher in my mind and sound like I'm listening to something newer. For this collection, I like it because it doesn't focus on the heyday, and that's one of the reasons I chose to pick it up. You know, I've heard the song To Be With You more than enough times. I don't need it on another collection kind of a thing, and I've got those best ofs from that heyday period, and that's certainly like what the US market focuses on. So the fact that Japan has put out this collection, which focuses on their later period, I really enjoy that. And in particular, they've got this collection, which is the first 4 albums before Paul Gilbert left, and then this collection, which picks up when he returns. So you could listen to these as like a double album kind of a thing, back to back, if you want to cover all the stuff with the Paul Gilbert career. So let's take a look at this. This is the front cover of it here, and I like the way that the art does, you know, a gathering of all the different sort of memorabilia and things from them over their career. And then there's the back side, and you've got the track listing down there of the 18 tracks. Here's the inside of it, and I like that they colored the disc gold to go along with the title here, Songs, but also like it is a gold disc, which is, you know, a record award that they repeatedly get in Japan. Here's the booklet, and I'll show you guys the OBI strip that it comes with, and then you do get the Japanese booklet where all this stuff is unfortunately in Japanese, but a lot of people do still like these things, and it does still have the lyrics and everything in here in English, so you can follow along. But the booklet itself is really well done, and they usually are for the Japanese market. You got really great photos. It actually gives you all the tour places they played on each of the tours for each of the albums in here. So it not only does the album release information, but then they cover with each of the tours in here as well, which I like a little bit more there than you normally would. A lot of really great photos in this, and I like this too because this is like a, not a gatefold, but when you open it up you get a much bigger picture here of the whole thing. So all in all, I think it's a really nicely selected and organized best of, and you know, if this is to be their final thing in their career, if they're not going to do another tour, another album doing it, then I do think this puts a nice cap on everything. I think that the only thing is that this album here is probably only needed for diehards like myself, or if you only know the hits and you want to get a little something extra without having to buy the whole catalog. Otherwise, there's nothing really new on it other than that one song that is the benefit single for Japan. And my only complaint on this would be that that one song itself is at a lower quality or mixed at a lower sound rate than everything else. Now, it is the last song on the album, so you do listen to the first 17 tracks at a regular volume, and then this one steps down a bit, and I am glad or thankful then that it is at the end. But it being the only new song for me, I wish they had mixed it at the same level as everything else. But all in all, I do think this is a really good collection, and I'm glad that I've added it to my own collection. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you did, please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, and I hope everyone has a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.